So topic for today, AI Academy. How many of you have run some AI training internally? Some of you, cool. I saw some hands like half raised, so they kind of did it, but not completely. All right. So maybe a couple of words about DataGuard, because some of you might know me from BlaBlaCar. BlaBlaCar didn't have to present it because everyone knew, but DataGuard is something different. What are we doing? We're tackling that. So almost everyone is exposed to some sorts of security risk. And the challenges that you're facing, regulatory changes, security threats, hidden risk. I don't know how many of you know how their companies are managing all the documentation linked to GDPR, TSAX, SOC 2, security processes, and so on. Most likely lives in folders, Google Documents, spreadsheets. So what the DataGuard is doing is helps you take care of all of that. So everything you need to stay secure and compliant. All right, let's wrap up the salesy talk, and let's deep dive into today's topic. So, among you, who feels they need to train their company on AI tools? AI tools, broadly speaking. Okay, so almost everyone. So for the ones that didn't raise their hand, tell us a bit more. How come you don't need that? All right, so what we're doing today, quickly some intro about how I like to run this workshop, why do we need it, some insights I can share about two journeys, one from BlaBlaCar, one for DataGuard, and then I want this to be a live discussion, okay? So why do we need this workshop? How many company needs AI enablement? 100%. I'm not sure what it's not showing, but everyone. Now let's do a quick poll. How many have successfully enabled their company to use AI? Raise your hand. Nice. So we stand at 0% in this room. So here is why we need this workshop. How many of you have heard that from some of the operational teams? So most of you haven't. So that's good. This is something I've heard a lot, that we do training and then the people come back after you say, hey, look, the training is great. I loved it. I'm not sure what to do with it. How does that apply to my job? Not clear. And another thing I've heard a lot is, hey, look, AI is cool, but doesn't apply to me. I'm not sure what to do with it. How would you say, what's the percentage of daily active users of AI tools in your company? Like, who would say it's like more than half are using it daily? Okay, cool, not bad. Who would say it's more than 75%? And so we're in, okay, so it's between 50 and 75. Who believes they are at 100%? Everyone uses it every day? Nope, no one. Okay. And so for me, these two things, like no one feels like they've done a great job at enabling the company to use AI, and like not a single company is using it with everyone daily. I mean, that's a problem. That's something we need to fix. So how do we move past that? That's today's topic. For me, the academy is here to make AI usage systematic. And for that, I believe you need to focus on four things. And a parallel I'd like to make is, most of you work in data. Imagine if everyone in your company is using Excel or a spreadsheet correctly. I mean, not inputting numbers and then having a calculator on the side and computing the sum and then putting the sum back in the spreadsheet, right? Which today still a lot of people do. But imagine if everyone was using Excel or spreadsheets correctly. Imagine if everyone was using ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, whatever, they were using it correctly. right? Did you start to see everything that they could do? So what's interesting is that AI Academy, for me, it goes a lot beyond prompting, and there are a lot more topics to that. The first one is it starts with how do you frame projects that are labeled AI? And by framing, I mean, okay, how do you raise the right question of like, should this be AI? Is that a real problem? Which problem are you trying to solve? How will you go about it? If you solve it, what's the impact? Most questions people don't ask themselves and they just start writing a prompt. The second aspect is how do you create a pathway from experiments? Hey, I created a custom GPT, or hey, I have that 200 lines prompt. It looks great. From, okay, it has real business impact. How many of you have like one example from their company where like a simple prompt created actual impacts for the teams involved or the person using it? Yeah? Who would like to share that example? Yeah, sure.
Thank you. No worries. Actually, we created an agent based on Dust because we're using Dust, and it was very simple. It was a summary of the emails. So very simple to prompt, super easy to deploy because we're using Dust. And actually, it's kind of a game changer because we're using Outlook. And for those who are using Outlook, maybe you know that it's a nightmare to look for emails. So very simple and very impactful.
I carefully start using my mic. Okay, thanks for sharing. So it's good. And that's the kind of application that indeed changes a lot. And it, as you said, it's a simple prompt, it's a simple task, but it changes the life of many, many people. And Microsoft at some point should fix Outlook search, but it's a different topic. So there's really that, how do you turn these like prompting guidelines, hey, here's context engineering and prompt engineering, etc., into, okay, I have a real application that creates value. The third point is, how do you scale usage? So how do you go from 20% people using it daily to 100%? And how do you create feedback loops? Because I'm sure there are some people that are rock stars in your company, but do they talk to the rest? Do everyone knows they are rock stars with AI? How do you leverage them? How do they tell you what they need to have in terms of tooling, in terms of training, in terms of enablement, and so on, so that you can move forward? Uh, and the last part, how do you avoid misusage and shadow AI? Do you know what shadow AI is? Yeah, some of you do. Have you seen that happening? Yeah, some of you want to share. It feels everyone feels more comfortable when they realize, okay, it's everyone's problem. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, so we are in the journey of building AI agents internally. We do many things with them, and we try to design specific agents for specific tasks, meaning that an agent is designed to do one thing and another to do another thing. And recently, one of my founders recently discovered that an agent can access a tool it was not supposed to. So he started sending a lot of Slack messages, calling it for things it was not intended to do. And as it's a founder, it got a lot of traction, and it was a huge misuse we had to fix at some point, particularly when we changed such agents so that it does not use the tool anymore. There was a bit of a backslash.
Thanks for sharing. So yes, there's that element as well where running the academy, it helps avoid that and helps you get the right governance and structure. Okay, so let's start with some foundations, and these are built on two experiences. So one at BlaBlaCar, 850 people around, very mature tech company. It's very engineering driven. It's a marketplace. The second example is from DataGuard, which is more of a SaaS business, 170 people, so a lot smaller, mostly operational driven, so very different context. And between the two, actually, BlaBlaCar, it was not a very high priority, not on the strategic list of like enabling everyone to use AI. Maybe that's surprising, but that's the case. And at DataGuard, it was completely the opposite. Low maturity, but everyone, the like CEO mandate, everyone needs to use AI and use it. So the two very different stories. So what I want to share, a few things that worked for me in these two companies, things that I discourage you to try, or at least I would love to hear your argument in favor of them. The strategy first. The first thing I did at both companies was, okay, let's align with the C-level on what we want to do. And what we want to do is requires 2 pages. You describe who's doing what do you, what's the objective. You align everyone, including the C-level, on here's what I need, here's what people will do, and so on. Why is it important? Because that's where you say simple things, such as at BlaBlaCar, didn't say, hey, we want 800 people building AI all the time. Nonsense. It was like, okay, our first objective is just to get everyone to use Gemini, which was our tool, almost every day. Period. So you set expectations. It doesn't need to be unrealistic. It needs to be actually pretty concrete. I also put some very explicit ask to the C-level, such as, hey, I want that to be in the OKRs of everyone. Until you do that, well, you're fighting a bit yourself and could be a long battle. They could have said no, they actually said yes, but at least you have the dialogue with them and say, hey, this is what I need. If you want to be serious about that, give me the resources. If you aren't, then let's review the ambition. And so on and so forth. But really, it's important to start with the strategy. One thing that's helpful also is it kind of avoids the founders or C-level obsession with, I have that great project. Now everyone should do it because it's so important for the company. It helps you fight back against that because you have that document, they signed it, so you have your objectives and so on. It also describes the trade-offs you're ready to do in terms of tooling. So no, not everyone will use 5 different tools. We'll pick one for the company. Here is why, and so on and so forth. But most of the painful discussion with the C-level happens there. Pragmatic impact. The very second thing that you have to do is how do you have like a 10 smallish projects, such as like building an assistant with Dust, or very simple things that you can implement right away. What people don't like is when you ask them their time, you go through a bunch of slides, they feel like they've learned a lot. The end of the session, they say, hey, look, it was great, thanks, and so on. And 1 week after, they tell you, not helpful. So exactly what will not happen tonight, right? But you need to be pragmatic. So it's better to start smaller and to say, hey, I'll do just the sales team because I know they can build a great GPT just for them. And after the enablement session, they'll know how to do it, versus like doing everyone and then I don't know what they need to do. So be very pragmatic. It's super, super important. They need to be able to do something in the end. Pragmatic, it means also that sometimes as experts, you don't realize how far away they are from what the tool can do. I've literally seen people that when we started the enablement session, both at BlaBlaCar and DataGuard, that had never opened an AI chatbot. Really, never. They didn't even know where to connect to it. So sometimes like starting with the very pragmatic basics, it's important. And then you might create custom GPTs or assistants all of the time. Most of them don't. So once again, like start with what's pragmatic, explain them how to do it, demonstrate how do you link a document, how do you upload. It sounds silly, but there are still many people that don't do that. Organizational motions. This one is about how do you manage the top-down versus bottom-up. And a couple more words about that in a sec. How do you manage the centralized versus distributed? Top-down versus bottom-up. If you start a transformation like that without top-down support, it's not going to work. Because you need everyone time to do training. So if the C level is not aligned, forget about it. Much better to run some small-scale experiment in one team, your team, like maybe the team next door, but forget about the company training. Bottom-up, once again, if people don't know what to do with these tools, you will do the training, you will have zero impact. That's something at BlaBlaCar, we started with the top-down motion pretty strongly once I convinced the C-level to do it. So we did all of the training. We probably weren't as strong on the bottom-up version of, hey, here's what we are expecting you to do in the next 2 weeks. DataGuard, it was kind of the reverse. Teams have like so much bottom-up things they wanted to do that it was hard to align on, okay, let's hold back, let's do a couple of simple things first, and then we'll start building some more advanced stuff. Centralized versus distributed, a couple of words about that. How many of you run a data team? Or are part of a data team? Okay. I'm sure you know that your team cannot perform all of the automations for the entire company. Even if you have like Dust or things like that, you just can't. You want people to do a lot of things. But you don't want to lose control on the governance, the infrastructure, like where's the data, who has access to what, and so on and so forth. So that's why you need these two motions of you will centralize the governance, you will centralize the infrastructure, you will centralize a bit of the guidelines, the roles, the definition, and then you'll distribute the execution. It's a bit scary, to be honest, when I realized that, yeah, some people would actually do stuff, automations, without a lot of training, without proper oversight and so on. But at some point you need that because they need to be empowered and they need to do it themselves. Otherwise you'll be swamped with everything that needs to happen. You can tell me when the screen is blank. But it's good. It looks like I'm captivating. There it goes. Obviously, it has frozen. So in the meantime, you can think about your questions. Yeah, go ahead if you have a question. I need to restart the presentation. Sorry.
No question.
Okay. So no questions. Cool. Roles and responsibilities. Whose role it is to do the AI transformation? Yours, Guillemette? Do you want to elaborate?
Well, I think it's a very good question. Depending on the organization, either like there's someone very natural to take this role, or I think it's just organic, like someone in the leadership team is like, we need to do it, and then it becomes your role. What I have bigger question, but I can keep for later, is more on the knowledge base actually. So like documentation, like context. I feel like organization need to think about the way they shape context layer much more broadly than data, and this have not heard a lot on that. So if I'm derailing a bit the discussion.
To me, it's related because I think successful in AI enablement, it runs from like how do you manage knowledge, how do you have like good engineering processes, how do you do good project management and so on. And some of these happen in data teams. I've not seen many operational teams do that well. So to me, you are left with two options. Either it's the engineering team doing it, so having the ownership of I'll enable the company with AI, or that's the data team. If you're lucky enough, you have a whole AI department, but very few companies have that. So for me, it's okay if the data team takes it. usually it's hard because it's small team. They don't have the ability of like being visible for the entire company. They need to create the mandate and so on. And you can't assume that like just because you've been appointed to do it, everyone will wait for you to tell them what to do. You'll still have to fight for HR to be on board and not just ask you pesky questions and so on and so forth. But what's certain is that it's AI transformation is not an effort that like a single team can do. Example from BlaBlaCar, when we started doing the training, the nice people team came to see me and say they hadn't even offered help. I was asking, but the only thing they came back to me was, but have you thought about the consequences and people that will ask questions about, hey, will I lose my job and so on? I was like, no, but you can help me do that. And how will you put that into all of the hiring processes? I don't know yet, but you can help me do that. And but how will you enable the managers to evaluate the AI skills of everyone? I don't know yet, but you can help me do that, and so on and so forth. And the reality is that you have HR, which is a big partner, and I'm not sure how many of you running this transformation is actively working with them, but if you don't, it's hard. And you have all of the different functions. They want something that's very specific, tailored for their use case. So sales have very different objectives and use cases than marketing, which has different use cases from engineering and so on and so forth. So really, roles and responsibilities, maybe the data team is leading, but it's actually a really, really cross-functional effort. And involving all of these functions together, it's hard. So you need to plan for that. And that's where like top-level support is super helpful. And for the knowledge base element, to me, it comes more as a second step of like, let's first introduce people with like simple tools and then show them that if they prepare their knowledge in a certain way, they'll get another 10x improvement into retrieving it, interacting with it, and so on. Yeah, go ahead.
So you said like role and responsibility. What do you think about having like a cross-functional teams that is leading these opportunities? Because as you said, like data team, they can have like limits in terms of what they can do and what they represent in their organization. So what is your views on bringing more people together just from different parts of the company?
The only time I've seen a vehicle moving successfully forward with two people driving is when you're learning to drive and the teacher, they can play with the wheel. Any other case, if you have four hands on the wheel, it doesn't go well. So I think I like the approach where there is one team or one person that's clearly leading. Then that person's role is to bring everyone together and say, okay, you'll do it, you'll do that, and I hold you accountable for that, and so on and so forth. So cross-functional team, it might work, but at some point you need to have the responsibility then on a single individual. Otherwise, it's too easy that whenever there's a problem, everyone's looking left and right, but it's never theirs. Tooling. So I have very opinionated view on that. I think to the probably disarray or the hatred of some in your company, you should impose like one tool, maybe two, but no more. It's very painful because obviously like many people have tried many different tools. There are billions of dollars of marketing thrown at us every day, so it's hard not to test. But at a company level, you can only afford one. Two is really the maximum. If you have more, you double or triple all the problems related, all the overhead, like governance, security, like even training itself, connectivity, integration with productivity tools, and so on and so on. So it's a very unpopular decision at BlaBlaCar, and we say, hey, it's going to be Gemini, not because we believe it's the best out there, it's just because that's one we have and it's easier to implement this one. I didn't get lots of love letters, but actually to implement it was a lot smoother and a lot easier. In DataGuard, the company decided before I joined that it would be ChatGPT. Okay, so let's pick one and let's forget about the ones that are, let's do Claude or let's use Mistral, or actually no one say that. But you see my point. Like, so tooling, you need to be strict and it needs to be a single tool for the entire company. Sustaining momentum. So for the one of you that have done training, company-wide training. How many of you have done more than once? Nice. A few of you. How many of you have done exactly one? How many of you have done 0? How many of you didn't listen to the questions? I saw some hand raising at this one. Okay, so sustaining momentum, it's okay, you've done the first pass. It's cool. Now education is repetition. So you need to move forward, do new things, repeat it, integrate it into the continuous learning journey, and so on and so forth. You need to follow up also with concrete actions. One thing I think we did pretty well at DataGuard is on my first month, we did the enablement. It was difficult because I had little context, but we still did it. And then since then, so that was mid-September, and since then we've done every 2 weeks during the all hands, there is a presentation about AI. It's something that people have built. And that helps keep the momentum going, and that helps communicate on where we are standing, what we are doing, and so on and so forth. If you don't do that, you'll train everyone. 6 weeks after, they'll have forgotten most of what you shared, and you've lost hours of training. Shadow AI, this one, I suggest we skip. Setting boundaries, super interesting. I'm sure many people want to become AI builders. Everyone wants to build agents with Dust, do MCPs, and so on and so forth. But the reality is that not everyone will. And as hard as it is, you need to be very explicit about that, both with the C-level, but at some point with the entire company, that yes, this is a basic training, and no, we don't expect everyone to become an AI engineer. It will pain some people, but it will save you hours of conversations because everyone knows what to expect. Setting boundaries, it also means to define more clearly what you expect people to do versus what you will keep in the data team. For instance, like a workflow automation. Personally, I decided at BlaBlaCar and then at DataGuard that no, people will only use tools that do not integrate with another productivity tool. So many people work in Salesforce, but no, they can't have a job that works directly in Salesforce because too complex, too risky, and that's something we centralized. They can still do plenty of things outside of it, but the boundary is pretty clear. Otherwise, you risk confusion, and you all know how risky it is when people start writing into left and right systems. Things I've not seen working so far, so don't start these projects if you have no top-down support. Don't start these projects if you have only top-down projects to execute. So if it's only the laundry list of the CEO that tells you, hey, I'd like the AI enablement to achieve that, push back, don't do it. It's risky. You need to be very realistic about what you share in terms of, at some point, the C-level will ask you what's the ROI of doing that. You should tell them, hey, 50% productivity gain, start looking for a new job. It would be cool, but it will not happen. Maybe it will happen for a couple of people, but realistically, if you already achieve like 10%, 15% productivity gains, it's cool. Like average productivity improvement is like to the order of 3% annually. If you do 15%, it's great. And don't roll out tools without enablement. Otherwise, you're just going to throw licensing money to left and right, but it won't create a lot of value. And it's easy to forget the licensing cost versus training everyone. I'll let you decide which one's the most expensive in terms of actual hours for the company. It's usually the enablement part that's the more expensive. I think the output that I want you to take away from today is on the slide. If you build that, and we aren't talking about like 6 weeks of work. It's like if you are concentrated, takes maybe like half a day to put the blueprint, and then you're good to go. But really walk through these steps, and if you have that and you stick to that plan, you'll see some value out of it. And I really encourage you that we stop tonight, but you take that exercise home and you share it on the MDN so everyone can see what you've built. With that, I'll let you do great pictures of my fantastic slides. This is the end. Thanks for your attention, and looking forward to chatting back to you about that topic on the MDN. Bye-bye. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.